while Kaspa doesn't have an execution environment, is great. And this is why we saw the Kaspa potential. And you can create all these, let's say, critical things that Kaspa today are non-existent. The idea that you can use Dymension to build a rollup that uses Cas as gas, but also posts all the data to Kaspa. We will support Kaspa through Ethereum and Kaspa Solana. Kaspa is a currency. It's a currency like Bitcoin, very neutral, very organic. Once you posted it, it's on Kaspa. This is the source of truth.
Supported by Kaspa Finance, the first V3 DeFi protocol on Kaspa. RollApps, atomic programmability on a Kaspa block DAG. Cascade, use your Kaspa without selling it.
Today, I'm joined by CEO of Dymension. Welcome, Yishai. Good to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Ankit. Pleasure to be here. Excited to talk.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to our discussion. So quickly, Dymension is a layer 1 blockchain built on Cosmos SDK, right? Designed for high-speed application-specific blockchains, the way I understood it, called RollApps, right? RollApps. And now you guys are building Kaspa, specific bridge. So now, before we get into Kaspa Bridge, architecture, technology, and rest of the detail, why don't we start with Dymension? What is Dymension Crypto?
Yeah, so Dymension is, I would frame it as a factory for chains, or kind of a launchpad for chains. That's easy to think about it. So we started out, it's think about it as a factory for standardized chains, right? So think about a chain like an ELC token, right? It has its own standard. And once you treat it that way, it's very easy to create interoperability. It's very easy to look at these things as like a primitive that people could use, like a standard chain, like a standard crypto server that people could deploy a game on. That's kind of from the product perspective. From the technical perspective, we started out Dymension, I'd say, been 4 years. So when we saw what's going on with Ethereum and the rollup roadmap, and we were like, wait, all of this is going to be built on top of the smart contract layer on Ethereum. Can we build it native into the L1? I mean, if you think about what Ethereum did, they kind of pivoted from this smart contract platform to this rollup hub. But they did it live, right? They did it because they needed to on top of the smart contract there. So we thought, okay, you can do it much more, let's say in a better way, in a better architecture, if you know this from the start and you build it into the binary, or you build these capabilities into the binary. So we built Dymension, which is basically designed to spin up these Cosmos SDK chains, which act as rollups. Pragmatically thinking, crypto servers on demand, designed for scale and ease of use of deployment.
Right. People that are new to Cosmos, right? It's from my perspective, it was a blockchain, or it is a blockchain designed for fixing interoperability, right? That was a big vision, and it still is for Cosmos, right?
Yeah, no, I would say like Cosmos is kind of the internet of blockchains, where we thought about Dymension more as the internet of rollups, or the internet of like L2s, where you don't need to create a validator set, right? So, if you want to create a blockchain, right, you would need a validator set, you would need coordination, you would need a budget. We're saying, listen, you just spin up this instance. It has this vault on Dymension, which acts as a vault, right, to settle. And you can do off-chain execution, but we can prove that this off-chain execution is right, and then you can settle from this vault. So this is the way to think about it. And the difference between Cosmos and Dymension is Cosmos is like an L1 internet, where it's on the level 1, where Dymension takes it one layer up and creates the same thing on the L2 layer.
Right. So it's a sort of middleware, in the traditional world, you will call it a middleware on top of the layer 1 you guys built.
Yeah, we actually wanted, initially I thought about the name, the elevator. Like it's like an elevator, right? So you can move from L1 to L2 and Dymension acts as a router between the L2s and the L1s. That was kind of the vision for it. Dymension is actually bringing another dimension to the
Right.
Cosmos. It literally is what it is. And the y-axis, so it's the y-axis. So it's DYM. It's not DIM. The Y is for taking it up.
Different dimension. I like it. I like it. It's quite clever. And it seems like it's very similar to Eigenlayer, what Eigenlayer is trying to do with Ethereum validator set, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It has its similarities. In Ethereum, they kind of like the validators of Ethereum can opt in to validate a service. It's not the exact same, but the validators of Dymension actually work as kind of safeguarding these vaults, right? It's not a smart contract. Whereas on Ethereum, it's a smart contract logic that safeguards the vault, which is the rollup. On Dymension, it's the validators. But there are similarities in terms of Eigen.
Yeah. I get you. I think I see the differences, and I think there will be some similarities in terms of DA with how you guys do it, data availability, and few other things. But yes, I thought it's worth mentioning it. So just quickly on the rollups, it's not rollups, it's rollups. So what are rollups, and so how many mini blockchains you've deployed? Is there a better way to position it?
Yeah, you can call it like mini blockchains. I've been through this kind of explanation a lot of times, and I even I tried to explain, like my mom and dad. They asked me, "What do you guys do?" And I was like, "Okay, a blockchain. There's a satellite blockchain, a small blockchain that anchors to our blockchain, and it gives it support. That's it. It's blockchain as a service for mini blockchain. So for people who want to dumb it down, that's what we do." The idea of these mini blockchains is that we don't want to. It's not for huge teams, right? It's kind of the long tail for people who want to get their own blockchain capability without raising VC money or just creating your own, let's say, a game on chain or anything that you need scale. Like you do need like low latency, anything like that, because it acts like a crypto server, right? So it's centralized in a way that it could give the best performance and service, but it is decentralized in where the money really lies and the proof to get to that money. So this is the core thesis behind rollups, right? You need to decentralize the vault and centralize just the execution of the transactions for the ability to scale, but with the ability, obviously, to prove those. So again, just to clarify, rollups are intended for teams who want to experiment easily with the creation of blockchains, who want to have these low latency environments and high TPS capabilities. So that's kind of the 2 cents.
What is a vault? You mentioned twice now, a vault.
Yeah. Okay. So I kind of, I speed that part a bit. So just generally how you should look at rollups from a guy who's been building these things for 4+ years, I'd say. So a rollup is basically a vault on the L1. It's where you put money into the L1 and you say, I'm going to have a side bet with a few people. And then once I want to settle, I would come back to the vault with a proof that I have this amount of money, and the vault would put it out. This is how you guys should think about a rollup, because all the other explanations are, how you prove to this vault and how this vault works, but it doesn't matter. Like pragmatically thinking from a user perspective, you have this vault, you deposit money, you do your off-chain execution, you do whatever you want. And in a decentralized way, you could say, this is how much money I've got to withdraw from this vault. This is a rollup. This is how rollups work on Ethereum. On Ethereum, the instance of the rollup is a smart contract vault, where on Dymension, it's built into the SDK, into the modules, into the binary. I hope that makes sense, but it's a huge difference, right? Why it's a huge difference? Because whoever runs this vault and you give him the access to build it, it creates a lot of non-standardized capabilities or non-standardized flows between each vault, right? So there's all these L2s on Ethereum, but each one is different.
Yeah.
Because because the devs built it on the smart contract layer as they wish, much control as they want, right? It would make sense that Ethereum would enforce it, that Ethereum would be the one who would build these vaults for people to use. And this is the whole idea of Dymension.
Okay. I think I'm getting there, but I'm still not clear because for me, Ethereum is sort of the base layer is providing few things, right? It's providing the DA. It's obviously the settlement layer. That's where the things settle.
That's where I would argue it's not really settling. Who is settling is actually the smart contract logic. So Ethereum doesn't know about settling. It knows just that there's some kind of code that settles.
I see what you're saying. You're saying the vault is basically, it doesn't care, I guess. Is that the right way? It doesn't care about, Ethereum doesn't care about what's happening on the layer 2.
It doesn't know. It says, listen, you built this vault. I will make sure that this vault works as you built it, but it doesn't know
exactly what this
vault is doing or what it does. And when you want to come up and settle, who is settling it? It's the rollup creator or the rollup. Let's see, the L2 team that built this vault. So Ethereum is not a settlement layer in my perspective, or from the architectural view, it's not a settlement layer. It's more of a DA that enforces the correctness of code, which is fine. But
I like it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say for a good DA to work, it has to know or it has to have the knowledge of the settlement? You think it's a wrong argument? No?
It's a wrong argument. No, you can have, this is the whole premise of Celestia, for example. Celestia, it's just the DA. So it just says, listen, I will give you the best DA guaranteed. This is the data. You can decide what this data means, but this is the data.
Okay,
right? It's very credible, neutral from that matter. It doesn't take a stance that this is good, this is wrong, we actually do the opposite. We say, these are the rules. This is the rollup, how the instance works, and you got to comply with it.
Okay, so just on Celestia, where does Celestia gets the data from then? Because it's getting the data from, if it's not a settlement layer, it has to get the data from somewhere, no?
Yeah, so it's getting the data from the sequencer, right? So basically, you post the L2, or let's say the operator of the vault posts the data, says this is the data that the vault would comply with, all right? If you come to the vault and ask for your money, it would check the DA that, you brought in the proof. You said, this is my money, and the vault would give it up. But how does the vault know what is good and what is really valid or not? It needs kind of the data of this chain. So you can think about it as a triangle where there's execution of transactions in the state. All of this goes into the DA, which gives the source of truth, right? But how you would decipher this source of truth is decided by the settlement. If that makes sense to you.
Okay.
It's funny because when we started, I said I'm not going to be too technical. I hope this is not too technical. I really hated.
I don't think it's technical. I think this is fun. In fact, it's perhaps a little bit different perspective from what I'm used to, but it's good. Different perspective is why we have different people. So just on the RollApps, what are the RollApps that you guys have deployed? Is it you guys are deploying? Like, are you funding these projects / mini blockchains, or is it third-party developers that are coming? And give me some examples.
Yeah. So, for example, we had one, actually not a team member, but somebody who's very close to the team built a game that's called Up or Down, where it was before Polymarket, but you can just, you deposit in, you would say if Bitcoin is going to go up or down. So all these mini games, that's kind of I guess, where we see a lot of value coming in from creating mini games that need this scale, that need the capabilities. But the rollup itself is also a unit that you can think about like an on-chain company. It also has its own governance, staking, all of that. So these mini games have kind of the decentralized aspect of blockchain where they can vote on where the revenue goes of this game. We also had like a small app that was jailbreaking AI, right? So you would deposit, you would try to prompt, basically tell the AI a few prompts, and if you would be able to jailbreak it, if the AI would tell you the answer, you would get the money. So these are the type of things that you can do bigger things, right? But these are the things that actually people like and build. which are simple and fun. But these things also have another layer of another dimension of decentralization, where you could have a token to it, you can stake into the app and enjoy kind of whatever perks the governance decides, whether it's revenue, whether it's inflation, whether it's, for example, voting on various aspects of this mini app. You could go ahead to the portal, portal.dimension.xyz, just explore around. We have a complete launchpad of these things. I would really love to see like a Kaspa rollup coming up live with Kaspa as gas, and you can do anything. The idea, coming to the Kaspa angle right now a little bit, is that the idea that you can use Dymension to build a rollup that uses Kas as gas, but also posts all the data to Kaspa, while Kaspa doesn't have an execution environment, is great. And this is why we kind of saw the Kaspa potential. And this is why I'm inviting anybody who wants to explore and kind of try it out by himself. It's doable. Even if you're not the most experienced dev, you can definitely do it. You don't even need to be a dev. That's the truth. It's doable. And you can create all these, let's say, critical things that Kaspa today, just are non-existent. So there's a lot of things like that. But I'll let the leaders of, or let's say the innovators in the community, think what's best.
So it's a good segue to discuss Kaspa. So what brought you to Kaspa, right? So what brought Dymension? Because you guys built the bridge, right? The bridge is live now. So what got you guys thinking about Kaspa? Is it because lack of smart contracts, or was it any other reason, or because you're also based in the same country? Was there a specific reason?
I mean, it's a lot of everything. So one of our lead devs, I guess in 2023 or something like that, have you seen Kaspa? And I was like, I don't want to see these shit coins. I don't want to, and he was super like early and motivated about this project. Like, he's coming from the same kind of ecosystem of people who built Kaspa, so he's very close to kind of I guess the OGs. For me, it sounded cool. I wasn't, I was very, very focused on Dymension, what we were building, which is kind of I'd say it's a distant cousin of Kaspa. Like, Kaspa is much more focused on proof of work, on decentralization for that matter. And we were much more focused on kind of the business aspect of creating these AWS crypto instances. So I didn't see a lot of like, let's say, angles that were relevant for us in terms of Kaspa. But later on, I've been following Kaspa, obviously, price explosion, just generally kind of basically learning that proof of work and like a real fair proof of work paradigm is very important for a currency, for that matter. And there's a difference between a currency and kind of let's say a protocol utility token, etc. And I believe Kaspa is a currency. It's a currency like Bitcoin, and it's one that proved itself to be very neutral, very organic, and for that matter, what we've been thinking a lot was we basically modularized the stack. And what it means is that you can choose where you want to post data for this vault or for the rollup instance to settle according to where is your source of truth, right? So once you understand this notion, you think, okay, you can collaborate with community, right? You can say, listen, I'm going to be this elevator for you guys to build all these cool things. Like if you want your community to build something specific that requires low latency and requires a smart contract platform or requires a specific execution environment, we're there for you. And we actually build this amazing tech to kind of safeguard this vault, but also to post it or to share the value with the Kaspa chain, with the L1 chain that basically we're using for DA. So for those who don't know, what this means is that the sequencer or this rollup on which uses Dymension posts all the transactions, everything that happens, every single aspect of this L2 to Kaspa. This means more fees for miners. It means more usage. It means actually using Kaspa for utility for its decentralization and security aspect, because now once you posted it, it's on Kaspa. This is the source of truth. And once you analyze this data, you get to the state of the L2 chain. So having said that, all of these advantages come into place where you can collaborate with Kaspa as an anchor for data and decentralization and community to build on top of. And once you understand that, you think, okay, that's a great idea. You can do this for Bitcoin, you can do this for Kaspa, but for Kaspa, the necessity or this capability was not widespread. Like I didn't see any capabilities that you can do on Kaspa today. I mean, I saw there's L2s on Kaspa, but coming from a nuanced, let's say a very educated perspective, I saw that most of it is just basically people, there's no real verification of what's going on there. It's basically a trust me, bro, kind of thing.
You mean the Cosplex and Igra? Like Cosplex is the only one live. Igra isn't live yet. So there are two L2.
I'm not too knowledgeable. Like, I don't want to say anything that's incorrect about these projects, and I believe that they're wholeheartedly coming from a great place. I really don't know, but I'm as far as I understand, there is no current way to actually run a node for these chains and to verify them. And even if there was, what can you do if something happens? So in Dymension, you can easily come to a dispute resolution. There is actually, you can come to the portal, you can say, I want to dispute this state, right? You can do that. It's actually there. I don't want to get into this too much because like I said, I don't know the technical nuances of these projects. And I surely believe that they're coming from a good place to develop the Kaspa community. But for somebody who's building for quite a long time these solutions and knowing how they can fit in other projects, I would highly recommend looking at our tech and seeing how robust it is and hopefully taking advantage of it.
No, I think it's definitely interesting, and that's why I thought I wanted to have you on the podcast. It's good that there are more builders, likes of yourself, building in and around Kaspa. I think that all drives adoption in one way or another. So I'm all up for it, right? It's about people finding out, people knowing, people learning, and obviously deciding for themselves what's right for them. In terms of, I think, just quickly discussing the node part for layer 2s. So yes, Cosplex and Igra are two layer 2s that are actually getting developed. One is already live, one is actually upcoming soon. One will have nodes, public nodes available.
I mean, they could also be ZK, right? Obviously, they can prove their state constantly. As I said, I'm not, unfortunately, I'm not into the depth of what they're doing.
Of course. I mean, you have your own blockchain to build, so that's fair. And then there's vProgs on the other side. The layer 1 is trying to do themselves, actually. Anyways, so let's talk about the bridge itself. Would you be able to share the bridge? I'd like to see the bridge in action if it's possible to share it.
Yes, we can do this. All right, can you guys see it?
Yes, indeed, I can definitely see it. Cool.
So first of all, this is the Dymension portal. You can check it out. You can sort by the base there, or basically the asset that you're using as kind of the base asset. You can use Kaspa. And if you go here, deposit, drop Kaspa, you can choose to move funds from Kaspa to Dymension. It's a good opportunity actually to notify everybody who's watching this that we will support Kaspa to Ethereum and Kaspa to Solana. So that's coming up. We're working on that, but that's going to be great.
Sorry, what does that mean, supporting Kaspa through Ethereum? You mean the layer 2s like EVM Kaspa, or what do you mean?
Just having a Kas representation on Ethereum, right? So today, imagine, you have somebody with funds on Ethereum, right? And he wants to buy Kaspa, but he wants to do it in a decentralized way. So he can come to Dymension, by the way. He can come to Dymension. He can come, there's a Kas USDC pool here. You can see how much it's trading. I can see it's trading here. I have a liquidity position here. You can add, remove. You can you can trade it here. But assuming somebody's on Ethereum only, right? There is no way currently to buy COS
No,
just
there is
on
none.
layer 1 Ethereum.
There's none.
Or
Yeah.
there is?
No, there's
Okay,
none.
so yeah, so the Dymension bridge will allow this to happen very soon. It's going to be great. It's also going to be available on Solana. And yeah, that's something to look forward to, guys. But here I'll show you just a quick demo here. Okay, so if I would try to move one COS, actually, let's try to move 100. Okay.
Sorry, what is it doing? Like, I can see COS to COS, but I don't understand what's happening. So from network,
I mean, it's from this is the network Kaspa, the Kaspa L1, right? This is to network Dymension. The amount is 100 COS, and bridging transfer is in progress. So I initiated a deposit from Kaspa L1 to Dymension of 100 COS. And now you can see it. It's in progress. You can follow it here. You can see the source hash, right? This would lead to the transaction in COS, which has a payload of kind of the metadata that's required to move this funds into Dymension. Let's talk a little bit about the architecture of the bridge itself. So this transaction is on COS already on the Kaspa L1, right? A relayer, which is basically a unit or a component that only moves data, or kind of, it doesn't have an active duty in terms of signing, but it only shares or moves the data from the Kaspa network to the validators in Dymension. So the relayer checks this out and sees that, oh, somebody is transferring COS from Kaspa L1 to Dymension. It has this metadata tag of the rightful data that we need. I'm going to disperse this information to the validators of Dymension. They would verify this. So the validator set, a subset basically of the validators of Dymension, would validate that this is actually a valid transaction on the Kaspa L1. And after that, once we have enough validators that approve this transaction, they would mint the wrapped COS on Dymension and would assign it, or basically send it to the rightful owner of this transaction. So this is something that takes approximately up to 4 minutes. It could take a little less.
I see.
We'll see how much it takes. Let's see. Oh, that's it. We're ready. Lock and load. Now now you can come up to this point right here. You would see that I have $4,000 worth of COS. I wish I'd shown you before this, but the balance has been raised by another 100 COS. Now I can bridge back, I can trade, I can use it any way I want. I can create an L2 that uses COS right here. I can say, okay, I want to use COS. I would choose a domain that could create the entire thing from the UI and launch a token that from my chain. And basically use COS as fees. Everything I need is over here.
Right. So now, this COS is sitting on Dymension, so it's a wrapped Kaspa.
There's a COS version on Dymension that represents each and every COS that's sitting in the Kaspa L1 network, which is kind of a one-to-one representation. And the only way to get this 100 COS is to bridge it back and remove it from Dymension.
I see. All right. So the example you showed, you transferred 100 COS from Kaspa layer 1 to Dymension, right? So in that case, it's a lock and mint bridge, right? I mean, there is plenty of bridges, right? Types of bridges, right? So this one is very
exactly
straightforward lock and mint bridge, it seems like. Obviously, correct me if it isn't. And when you
100%, it's a lock and mint bridge.
Right. So when you lock on the layer 1, I'm assuming it's going to some sort of multisig account, right? Escrow account on Kaspa.
That's true. It comes to an escrow account on Kaspa, which is controlled by a subset of the validator set of Dymension.
How many validators are there overall in Dymension? And when you say subset, how many are actually?
So we're working actually on a version to have it actually transition between the validator set according to the amount of stake. So if you want to check out the validator set on Dymension, you can come over here and you can see the validators. In terms of the subset, so we have Binance as a validator, we have Kraken as a validator, we have all sorts of validators on Dymension. The subset version, okay, so the idea or the ideal is to have each one of the validators having the ability to observe the Kaspa escrow address and to sign their attestation that the funds are there or not there, right? The current version has a subset, which basically the idea is to have every one of them, but just in terms of simplicity for the first version, it's an M of N kind of multi-sig address for, I believe it's 8 validators right now, and we'll grow as much as we can in terms of the technical development. So once enough validator signatures are in, the funds can move. There's a very elaborated Kaspa bridge design details on the Dymension form. By the way, if you guys are keen to look into it, that's great. It has really kind of the entire technical depth of how the bridge is built and what are the security assurances and what are the assumptions here and how it's trust minimized, etc. So highly recommend for the technical folks who want to kind of delve into the details. In terms of the architecture, it's really based on Hyperlane mythology. So if you guys know Hyperlane, it's a very similar. We actually use most of the components from Hyperlane to build this.
So M of N validators, what does that mean? Did you say 7 validators that needs to approve out of how many total are there? Like 100 plus validators are there, but only subset needs to approve.
Currently there's 125, and yeah, only currently a subset. We're working on a version where it's actually everybody, and it changes according to your stake. But we're working. Let's say we're working on this as it's a big task, right? So Hyperlane, the way Hyperlane works is that there's guardians, right? And there's a guardian for N of M or M of N, whatever. So the idea is if you can change the N of M to fit the validator set, you would be able to do so. It is cryptographically challenging. There's a lot of nuance here. But we are working on this, and it is a part of what we plan to do.
So this is the process of getting Kaspa onto Dymension. What about taking Kaspa back to the layer 1 to like unlocking costs?
So basically, it's the same idea as before. Here, the verification of the cost is done obviously by the entire validator set, right? They know, okay, so the entire validator set is aware of what the state of my cost balance is. So once I send cost back from Dymension, right, I have it here, right? So the validator set knows that obviously the transaction is valid. It gets into, let's say, the bridge module, which is capable of burning it, right? This happens once the transaction is kind of pending, right? Once the transaction is pending and is, let's say, proved to be valid, the realer starts to aggregate the signatures from the subset, right? These signatures are then distributed on the Kaspa L1 to release the funds to the relevant address that was assigned to the transaction. Let's have a look how it works in real time. Let's transfer, and we are out. So Dymension to Kaspa, estimated 2 minutes. Let's see it in work. Oh, it says it's already there. Now we can see if it's there. You don't see my wallet, but there's another UTXO that just arrived with 100 Kas.
Perfect.
I mean, you can try yourself with a few bucks to see how it works and feel comfortable with it.
Awesome. All right, that was quick. So can we go through the process again of how the unlocking process work and the burning process at the same time? Because obviously you wouldn't want to have a situation where you have, double counting of cash, right? So
yeah, okay. So step one, there's a user initiation, right? So the user initiates a transaction on Dymension. Dymension then burns this cash from the user balance, right? It takes this balance, and then it writes a specific hyperlane message to the outbox of the chain state with the status of pending, right? So the user actually populates the Kaspa destination address in his message. So this is where he wants to get the funds, right? Then what happens is a relayer monitors this outbox, right? It monitors and it waits for these kind of messages. It wants to construct this Kaspa transaction to spend it, right? From the escrow address on the Kaspa L1, right? But the Kaspa network would not accept this message without an M out of N signature from the Dymension validators. So the relayer then constructs this message. It actually collects it collects the signatures from the validators, and once it has enough signatures, it broadcasts this transaction to the Kaspa network with obviously the destination address of the user, and it gets relayed. And after the withdrawal is actually accepted to the network, this is what you said about bookkeeping. The protocol on Dymension must update that it went through, and then only then we can actually complete this transaction, mark it as complete.
I see. This is good stuff because bridges. I guess bridges, as you would know, right? Bridges are the weak links, so it's good to obviously go through this. Right, they're very important for liquidity transfers from one chain to another, but also we've seen many hacks, especially with bridges, right? So it's good to clarify. Just on the Kaspa layer 1, you mentioned that there is a multisig escrow account sitting there. So all the signatures that relayer collects sends it to the multisig, and then from there on it releases the Kaspa fund, right? Like, what is the process from relayer once it's collected all the signatures from the validators? Where does it send it to? Like on layer 1, Kaspa layer 1?
Yeah. Once he collects the signatures, these signatures are oriented towards the Kaspa L1 network, right? So you would need to broadcast them, but this multisig, or this M out of N address, would not approve the message if it doesn't have M out of N valid signatures. So basically, this is another kind of vault that says, listen, for me to move funds out of here, I need validator A to validator B to validator C to sign this message, right? This is what I need from you. And so the relayer is just, broadcasting the message and collecting messages. The same from, the other direction, right? It looks at the Kaspa network. It just knows, okay, this is the current state on Kaspa. Now it asks the validators on Dymension to verify it. And once each one of them verifies it, you can move the funds.
Right. And then the last step on your side, you do the bookkeeping for yourself for Dymension. You guys obviously make sure that
exactly.
That's the last.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. That's great. And I guess now I also saw you guys have an exchange, right? The AMM based DEX.
Yep. You can come over to Dymension, right? There's an entire kind of DeFi ecosystem here. You can actually enjoy LPing the pool here with yield, right? So currently there's 41% yield. There's an entire DEX on Dymension. So DEX is just a regular AMM. We've built a lot of things. You can swap. You can see all the assets on Dymension. There's probably like 1 million here. But you can also create your token. You can create your own Kaspa project. But most importantly, I think the most important thing for Kaspa folks is that you can have a place where you can trade costs with no MXC, with no, I know you guys are, everybody's against kind of the Binance fiasco, right? So here's a decentralized place that you can actually trade costs. It's important. It's important to have a place where there is liquidity. So come in and, put as much as liquidity as you feel comfortable with. Obviously, it's a start. You don't want to, you never want to put more than you feel comfortable, but it could actually yield, according to risk. So you can try it out. But I guess the most important thing is to have access to a decentralized exchange that could be capable of moving CAS into USDC for you. USDC, by the way, the USDC that you see here, you can easily use it to bridge to Arbitrum or to Solana or to Ethereum or to Base. So you can 100% use Dymension as kind of a off ramp if you need funds to kind of spend. So yeah, that's a very important aspect for you guys out there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I was shocked when actually I spent a little bit of time on the bridge, and then I discovered the DEX, and I was surprised that there's entire DEX exists there.
There's so many things. There's a lot of things you can really get lost in Dymension. There's a lot of things.
Now, quickly, can we talk about the Dymension itself? I'm assuming it's a proof of stake system, right? Can you quickly talk about the Dymension itself, like what consensus you guys use for your own validators, I guess?
Yeah, so Dymension uses Tendermint. Tendermint is probably the most popular framework in terms of it's a Cosmos SDK with Tendermint as the consensus engine. I don't want to get too technical for the folks out there, but basically Cosmos SDK is kind of the app layer where Tendermint is kind of the consensus. Basically, it makes all the validators agree on what the app is. This is Tendermint. So this is what Dymension uses. Like I said, there's 125 validators you can stake. You can actually run your own node easily and join the network if you want. And yeah, that's about it.
Do you stake DYM, which is your token, right? So you just stake the token and start to be a validator.
Yeah, you can stake your token to any one of the validators. You can actually become your own validator, right? If you get enough stake, you can get into the validator set. So everybody could be a validator, right? It's permissionless. Everybody could run their own node, obviously. If you run your own node as a validator and you stake enough to enter the set, you are a validator, which is great. There's nothing too exciting from that perspective because it's very similar to any other Cosmos chain. But it's good. Like, you don't have to be exciting in these things. It just has to be stable, reliable. And Cosmos SDK has proved, Cosmos SDK and Tendermint, it's kind of a nuance. Tendermint is the consensus engine, while Cosmos SDK is the applicative layer. Both of them have been proven as a great, amazing framework, probably the most successful in the world. So yeah, we're highly satisfied with using this framework and adopting it and obviously developing into it, right? So the entire rollup layer is built from these kind of, let's say we're built on top of the Cosmos SDK code base for the rollup layer, while instead of Tendermint, we build our own rollup consensus engine, which is specific to Dymension. But this is on the L2 layer, right? So clarify that.
And just on the bridge, is the bridge audited? Like, I guess, I know it's Hyperlane inspired, but has it gone through any audit, third-party audit, just for, I guess, people's sanity?
Yeah. Okay. So we haven't had a complete audit by an external team to this moment. So you can feel comfortable to put as much as you want, which is not it's not an amount that you feel comfortable to lose or something like that. We have an internal audit, right? So we have a few teams on Dymension core team. You can think about it like that, which an external, let's say team A has been audited team B, but we don't have a complete audit for it.
I see.
We do have a lot of, let's say, material on how it works and the security assurances. So feel free to come read it and see it.
Right. Okay. So it's not third-party audited, but are you planning to do one in the future?
I mean, Dymension is audited, a lot. So the Dymension chain and Dymension framework and Dymension rollup. So we've used a lot of components that we've used already. It's kind of let's say it's very, very pricey to do audits. We have in our repo our audits. It's a very pricey, and I'm talking about hundreds and even millions of dollars that we spend in auditing. For some components have been already audited, so it's kind of reusing it. But once the bridge takes action in terms of the usage and becomes above a certain threshold, we'll obviously audit it. Just at this point, once the pool of funds that we have in risk, quote unquote, is lesser than the audit amount, it doesn't make a lot of sense to audit this. Currently, I think there's around 200K, something like that, in terms of USD value. But we will obviously audit if it shoots up, and we want people to feel comfortable to try it out and to grow this. And we will do this. We will grow this and scale this properly.
Sure. Okay. I think, yeah, people can decide for themselves, but it's good to have, good for them to know where you're sitting and, the challenges you have as well. So now Bridge is live, right? This Kaspa Bridge is live. Are you looking to build anything new for Kaspa community, or specific product to Kaspa or for Kaspa outside of the bridge?
So I shared that there is going to be the Kaspa to Ethereum Kaspa Solana bridge. That's going to use kind of the same thing for it's going to use Dymension as a middleware for that. We plan to do this very soon. It's important. It's I think it's going to be great. If it catches a lot of traction, we're obviously going to boost up everything in terms of the development resources. These resources are very, very, very pricey. It takes a lot of capital and costs to maintain and to build this in a secure and safe way. But we are doing this. And it all depends on traction. People care. If people care, we'll invest more. We'll build. Potentially, we're trying to collaborate to create the first general purpose Kaspa L2 that uses the framework. But it's up to the community to decide if they're interested, if it makes sense for them, if they like the capabilities that we bring to the table.
When can community expect Solana and Ethereum from Kaspa to Solana, Kaspa to Ethereum to be live?
I guess it's a matter of a few weeks.
Few weeks.
The tech is there, but there's a little bit of operational overhead that we need to kind of divert resources, but it's there. We'll be happy to update. So follow Dymension, and yeah.
Awesome. Look, it was amazing discussion. I think we covered a lot. Anything specifically we haven't covered off that you would like to perhaps discuss now?
I mean, there's so many things happening in crypto. There's so many things. Actually, there's a lot of things happening also in Dymension in terms of capabilities. So get lost in the portal. I think just to kind of sum it up, crypto is built upon the ingenuity of people, communities, and if people care, it evolves, right? So these are the tools. We've built amazing tools for people, and feel free to use them, and feel free to reach out to us, to me. Come to Dymension Discord, come to any TG. We're pretty open, and the idea is for us to build a positive sum relationship. Both the Dymension, Kaspa, it doesn't matter. We have tech. Let's build things that people want to use, that people want to take advantage in a good way, and grow the community, grow the pie. That's what crypto is about. So it's not about us building everything for Kaspa. It's about communities working together and flourishing with the tools that they have and that we have, and